other, more tangible forms of freedom and oppression do. It's that old mythology that sticks and stones may break your bones, but words can never hurt you. Getting people to understand that language itself is a means through which people can be harmed, elevated, or valued is really important, Zimin says. Zimin, like most of the other word whizzes I talked to for this book, is a linguist, a profession that, despite common misconceptions, has nothing to do with learning to speak dozens of foreign languages or correcting people's split infinitives. Linguistics is, in fact, the scientific study of how language works in the real world. Under that umbrella falls sociolinguistics, where the studies of language and human sociology intersect. It actually wasn't that long ago, around the 1970s, when linguists first began studying how human beings use language as a social tool to do things like create solidarity, form relationships, and assert authority. Out of everything they investigated, the most eye-opening and contentious subject has undoubtedly been language and gender. That is, how people use language to express gender, how gender impacts how a person talks, and how their speech is perceived. Over the decades, linguists have learned that pretty much every corner of language is touched by gender, from the most microscopic units of sound to the broadest categories of conversation. And because gender is directly linked to power in so many cultures, necessarily, so is language. It's just that most of us can't see it. Speaking of power, you may or may not have heard of a little thing called patriarchy, a societal structure in which men are the central figures. Human societies haven't always been patriarchal. Scholars believe man's rule began somewhere around 4000 BCE. Homo sapiens have been around for 200,000 years in all, for context. When people talk about smashing the patriarchy, they're talking about challenging this oppressive system, linguistically and otherwise, which is relevant to us, because in Western culture, patriarchy has overstayed its welcome. It's high time the subject of gender in words makes its way beyond academia and into the rest of our everyday conversations. Because 21st century America finds itself in a unique and turbulent place for language. Every day, people are becoming freer than ever to express gender identities and sexualities of all stripes, and simultaneously, the language we use to describe ourselves evolves. This is interesting and important, but for some, it can be hard to keep up, which can make an otherwise well-meaning person confused and defensive. We're also living in a time when we find respected media outlets and public figures circulating criticisms of women's voices, like that they speak with too much vocal fry, overuse the words like and literally, and apologize in excess. They brand judgments like these as pseudo-feminist advice aimed at helping women talk with more authority so that they can be taken more seriously. What they don't seem to realize is that they're actually keeping women in a state of self-questioning, keeping them quiet, for no objectively logical reason other than that they don't sound like middle-aged white men. More troubling still, there are also plenty of folks, usually ones of some social privilege, who want to stop language from evolving at all costs. These are the grumps you may find dismissing gender-neutral language as ungrammatical, refusing to learn the difference between sex and gender, or lamenting the inability to throw around the word slut willy-nilly without being called sexist like they could in the good old days. Sensing the grounds of linguistic change quaking beneath them, these humans take phenomena like vocal fry and gender-free pronouns as a spine-chilling omen that their dominance in the world is at stake. So they dig in their heels, hoping that if they can keep English as they know it from changing, a futile effort any linguist will tell you, the social hierarchies that they so benefit from will remain intact. We're living in an era when many of us often feel overwhelmed and silenced by the English language. But it doesn't have to be that way. We can take it back. And in this book, you're going to learn how. But first, a history lesson. Because taking back the English language can't work unless we know where it came from in the first place. Can't cure a disease unless you figure out what causes it, you know? The good news is that the English language was not literally invented by a group of white dudes in robes sitting in a room deciding on the rules. Though sometimes that is very much the case, like in France. More on that later. For the most part, however, that's not how language works. Instead, it develops organically. To get us started on this linguistic journey together, allow me to present a brief timeline of how the English language was born. In the 5th century AD, a trio of Germanic tribes from Scandinavia